So that scene where Dunk just casually walks into Ashford Castle and convinces the heir to the Iron Throne to vouch for him? Yeah, that completely changes everything we thought we knew about this tournament. And by the end of this breakdown, you'll understand why Prince Baelor's kindness might be the most tragic decision in Targaryen history. Before we get into all the royal drama and why Aerion Brightflame is giving off major Joffrey vibes but somehow worse, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell because we're breaking down every episode of this series. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming in Episode 3. Episode 2, titled Hard Salt Beef, starts with something nobody asked for but HBO decided we absolutely needed to see. Ser Arlan of Penetree's massive manhood. Yes, you heard that right. The show opens with Dunk reminiscing about his dead mentor in a series of flashbacks, and we get the full Monty. This isn't in the books at all, by the way. George R.R. Martin never mentioned anything about Ser Arlan being heroically endowed. But HBO clearly wanted to make a statement. Welcome to Westeros, where even the dead Hedge knights are packing heat. But here's what's actually important about these opening flashbacks. Dunk is trying desperately to make Ser Arlan sound like this legendary knight. He's going around the tournament grounds, approaching every lord and knight he can find, basically begging them to remember his former master. And they all give him the same answer. Nothing. Blank stares. Polite dismissals. Complete indifference. This is where the show does something brilliant that the book only hints at. We see Dunk's entire world crumbling. He's built his entire identity on being the squire of Ser Arlan of Penetree, this supposedly great knight who told him stories of jousting against princes and defeating famous lords. But as he goes from tent to tent, from one dismissive nobleman to another, reality starts setting in. Maybe Ser Arlan wasn't as great as Dunk thought. Maybe he was just another nobody Hedge knight who lived and died without anyone noticing. The show really drives this home when Dunk tries to get various knights to vouch for him. He approaches them with genuine hope, talking about how Ser Arlan served under them, fought for them, ate at their tables. And these knights just look right through him. It's like Ser Arlan never existed. This is Westeros in its rawest form. If you're not born into power, if you don't have a great house name behind you, you're invisible. You're nothing. Now let's talk about what Dunk does to survive at this tournament, because this is where we see his character shine. He's broke. Like, absolutely broke. He's got 2 stags to his name. That's it. So he does what any desperate Hedge knight would do. He starts hustling. First, he tries to get armor. The armorer Steely Pate wants 800 stags for a new set. Dunk doesn't have 800 stags. He doesn't even have 80 stags. So Pate offers to melt down his existing armor and reforge it for 600 stags. Still way too much. Eventually, after some serious negotiating and probably a lot of begging, Pate agrees to let Dunk rent armor for the tournament for just 2 stags. Everything Dunk has. This is the reality of being a Hedge knight. You're always one tournament away from complete destitution. Then there's the shield situation. Dunk needs his own coat of arms because Baelor told him he can't use Ser Arlan's sigil. He's not actually Ser Arlan's son, after all. So Dunk goes to find Tanselle, the puppeteer girl he met in Episode 1. The one he clearly has a massive crush on but is too awkward to do anything about it. Their interaction is comedy gold. Dunk tries to flirt with her and completely fails. He stammers. He says she's not too tall, like that's somehow a compliment. He basically malfunctions when talking to a woman he finds attractive. Tanselle, being way smarter than Dunk, just smiles and agrees to paint him an elm tree on his shield. She even throws in that line about how all men are fools and all men are knights, which completely goes over Dunk's head. This is what makes Dunk such a great character. He's not some smooth, confident hero. He's awkward. He's insecure. He thinks he's stupid because everyone's always told him he's stupid. But he's got heart. He's got honor. And he genuinely tries to be a good person in a world that doesn't really reward good people. But the real meat of Episode 2 comes when the Targaryens arrive. And oh boy, do they make an entrance. First, we need to understand who these Targaryens are and why they're at Ashford. The current king is Daeron II, also known as Daeron the Good. He's not at the tournament. He's back in King's Landing doing king things. But 3 members of his family are here, and their presence completely changes the atmosphere. Prince Baelor Targaryen is the heir to the Iron Throne. He's King Daeron's eldest son, and everyone calls him Baelor Breakspear. This guy is basically the perfect prince. He's skilled at combat, he's fair, he's just, and he actually treats common people with respect. When Baelor arrives, everyone cheers. The small folk love him. The nobles respect him. He's everything you'd want in a future king. Keep that in mind because it's going to hurt later. Then there's Prince Mikar Targaryen. He's Baelor's younger brother and King Daeron's fourth son. Now, Mikar is interesting because he's always lived in Baelor's shadow. Baelor is the golden boy, the beloved heir. Mikar is the spare. He's competent, he's a good fighter, but he's also stern and kind of bitter about his position in life. He's got that classic younger brother energy where he's both proud of his family and resentful of never being the favorite. And then there's Aerion Targaryen, Mikar's second son. This guy styles himself Aerion Brightflame because he's obsessed with dragons. Even though all the dragons have been dead for about 50 years by this point, Aerion is out here acting like he's some kind of dragon lord. He's arrogant, he's cruel, and he's got this air of entitlement that makes Joffrey Baratheon look humble. When Aerion first encounters Dunk, he assumes Dunk is a stable boy because Dunk's dressed in simple clothes and is standing near the horses. Aerion basically orders Dunk around and then insults him when he realizes Dunk is actually a knight. This is our first real look at how the Targaryen nobility views Hedge knights. They're barely better than servants. But here's where Dunk shows who he really is. Aerion's horse gets spooked and kicks a stable hand, and instead of worrying about the injured man, Aerion is more concerned about his horse. Dunk immediately goes to help calm the horse down. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't worry about insulting a prince. He just sees a dangerous situation and helps. This is classic Dunk. His first instinct is always to help, even when it might get him in trouble. This scene leads to Dunk meeting two members of the Kingsguard. Ser Roland Crakehall and Ser Donnell of Duskendale. These guys are actually decent to Dunk. Ser Donnell even tells Dunk that he's also from humble origins. He's not from the ruling family of Duskendale, House Darklyn. His father was a crabber. Just a regular fisherman. But Donnell became a knight through skill and determination, and eventually made it all the way to the Kingsguard. This is huge for Dunk to hear. Because everyone keeps telling him that Hedge knights are worthless, that you need to be born noble to achieve anything great. But here's a Kingsguard knight telling him that's not true. That you can rise through the ranks through merit. It gives Dunk hope that maybe his dreams aren't completely impossible. Now let's get to the scene that book readers have been waiting for. Dunk sneaking into Ashford Castle to meet Prince Baelor. In the books, this scene is a bit different. Book Dunk actually gets invited into the castle more formally. But the show changes it so that Dunk overhears that two of Mikar's sons, Daeron and Aegon, are missing. Dunk being Dunk, he follows the servants into the castle trying to figure out what's going on. He's not trying to spy or cause trouble. He's just curious and maybe a little worried because, you know, one of those missing princes is his squire Egg. Lord Ashford's daughter spots Dunk lurking around and basically calls him big and stupid before walking away. This poor guy cannot catch a break. But then Mikar himself spots Dunk hiding behind a doorway, which is hilarious because Dunk is 6'5". He's not exactly built for stealth. Instead of having Dunk thrown out, Baelor invites him into the chamber to talk. This is the scene that defines Baelor's character. This is the heir to the Iron Throne, surrounded by lords and princes, in the middle of discussing important matters. And he stops everything to talk to a Hedge knight. Not because he has to. Not because there's some political advantage. But because he's genuinely kind. Dunk asks Baelor if he remembers Ser Arlan of Pennytree. And here's where the show does something beautiful. Baelor actually does remember. He remembers jousting against Ser Arlan years ago. He remembers the details of the fight. He even remembers showing mercy to Ser Arlan afterward, letting him keep his horse and armor after defeating him. But there's a catch. Dunk has been told his whole life that Ser Arlan broke 7 lances against Prince Baelor. 7 lances. That's the story Ser Arlan always told. But Baelor says it was only 4 lances. 4, not 7. Dunk's entire worldview is shifting in this moment. His mentor, the man who taught him everything about being a knight, apparently embellished the stories he told. Or maybe he just remembered wrong. Or maybe he lied to make himself sound better. Dunk tries to save face by bringing up another story. Ser Arlan claimed he defeated Ser Daemon Lannister, the Grey Lion, in a tournament. And Baelor confirms this one. It actually happened. So Ser Arlan wasn't completely full of it. He had his moments of glory. They were just smaller and less frequent than he made them sound. Baelor agrees to vouch for Dunk and let him enter the tournament. But he tells Dunk he needs his own sigil. He can't fight under Ser Arlan's elm tree and ravens because he's not Ser Arlan's son or heir. Dunk needs to establish his own identity, his own legacy. This is a turning point for Dunk. He's no longer just Ser Arlan's squire. He's Ser Duncan the Tall, and he needs to figure out who that means. The tournament sequence that closes out the episode is absolutely spectacular. The show really captures what these medieval tournaments would have felt like. Multiple justs happening at once. Knights showing off with elaborate moves. The crowd going wild. It's not like the formal one-on-one justs we saw in Game of Thrones. This feels more chaotic, more festive, more real. Throughout all of this, Dunk is watching and learning. He's studying how the knights move, how they hold their lances, how they position themselves on horseback. Because very soon, he's going to be out there competing against these men. And he knows he's outmatched. These are knights who have been training since childhood under the best masters at arms in Westeros. Dunk learned from a Hedge knight on the road. He's strong and he's got heart, but skill-wise, he's way behind. The episode ends with Dunk reflecting on Ser Arlan's legacy and his own chances. He thinks about how Ser Arlan lived nearly 60 years and never became a champion. Never won a major tournament. Never achieved the glory he sought. And Dunk wonders if he's doomed to the same fate. Is he just another nobody Hedge knight who will live and die without anyone remembering his name? But here's what Dunk doesn't realize yet. His legacy isn't going to be about winning tournaments. His legacy is going to be so much bigger than that. Because in the books, we know how Dunk's story ends. He becomes Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. He serves under King Aegon V. You know, Egg. His squire. And when Dunk dies, he's one of the most respected knights in the Seven Kingdoms. The tragedy is that Ser Arlan probably had the same dreams. He probably thought he'd become someone important, someone remembered. He died by the side of a muddy road with only Dunk to bury him. But Ser Arlan did achieve something important. He trained Dunk. He taught Dunk about honor and duty and what it means to be a true knight. And because of that, Ser Arlan's teachings echo through the decades, affecting kings and kingdoms. Now let's talk about what this episode sets up for the rest of the season. We know from the books that Aerion is going to do something really bad. Something that forces Dunk to make a stand. And when Dunk makes that stand, it's going to trigger a trial by combat. Not just any trial by combat. A trial of 7. 7 knights on each side, fighting to the death. It's going to be one of the most brutal sequences in the entire series. We also know that Prince Baelor, this kind and just man who vouched for Dunk, who showed mercy to Ser Arlan years ago, who treats Hedge knights with respect, is going to die in that trial. His death is going to change the line of succession. It's going to affect the entire future of the Targaryen dynasty. All because he chose to be kind to a Hedge knight. That's the real tragedy of this story. Baelor's kindness, his sense of justice, his willingness to stand up for what's right even when it means fighting his own family, is going to get him killed. And the ripple effects of his death will be felt for generations. There's also the mystery of Egg's identity, which the show is handling really well. Dunk doesn't know yet that his squire is actually Aegon Targaryen, son of Prince Mikar, grandson of the king. When Egg asked to leave when the Targaryens arrived, it wasn't because he was scared. It was because he didn't want his family to see him dressed as a common squire. He's hiding from them. In episode 2, we learn that Mikar's sons Daeron and Aegon are both missing. Daeron is the eldest son, the one expected to inherit after Mikar. He's apparently drunk somewhere, completely unreliable. And Aegon, well, Aegon is with Dunk. Mikar doesn't know where either of them are, and he's concerned. This is going to become important very soon. One detail the show includes that book readers will appreciate is the mention of the Blackfyre rebellion. Egg, while practicing with his wooden sword, yells, "Do you yield, Blackfyre bastard?" This is referring to the civil war that happened about 11 years before the tournament. Demon Blackfyre, a bastard son of King Aegon IV, claimed he was the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. He started a rebellion that split the realm. Baelor and Mikar fought on King Daeron's side and helped defeat the Blackfyres at the Battle of the Redgrass Field. This is important because the Blackfyre threat isn't gone. There are still Blackfyre supporters out there, waiting for another chance to challenge Targaryen rule. This becomes a major plot point in later Dunk and Egg stories. Some of the knights at Ashford might even be secret Blackfyre sympathizers. The show is planting these seeds early. The relationship between Dunk and Baelor in this episode is crucial. When Baelor vouches for Dunk, he's not just helping a Hedge knight enter a tournament. He's recognizing something in Dunk. He sees a good man trying to do the right thing. He sees someone who reminds him of what knighthood should be. And he's willing to put his reputation on the line to help him. That's who Baelor is. He's the kind of leader Westeros needs but rarely gets. He's fair. He's just. He listens to common people. He judges men by their character, not their birth. His death is going to be a massive loss for the realm. And the worst part is, it's going to be partly because he chose to do the right thing. Because he chose to defend a Hedge knight against his own nephew. The tragedy of a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is that good people keep dying. Good people like Ser Arlan. Good people like Prince Baelor. And the cruel, the ambitious, the ruthless, they survive. Aerion survives the trial of 7. Mikar eventually becomes king, even though he's the 4th son, because all his older brothers die or go mad. And years later, Aegon becomes king, even though he's the 4th son too, because his 3 older brothers all die in various ways. This is George R.R. Martin's world. This is the world where the Red Wedding happens. Where noble Ned Stark gets beheaded. Where good intentions and honor often lead to tragedy. But it's also a world where those good intentions matter. Where honor isn't meaningless even if it doesn't always lead to victory. Where the legacy you leave behind is more important than the glory you achieve in life. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed because we're doing this for every episode. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Are you Team Dunk all the way? Do you trust Prince Baelor? And what do you think about Aerion Brightflame? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one.